Have you ever looked at a map of the United States and thought, wait, what's even in Wyoming? If so, you're not alone. Wyoming is one of those places that people hear about but rarely visit, let alone move to. In fact, it's the least populated state in the entire country. Just think about that for a second. There are more people packed into a single New York City neighborhood than in the entire 97,000 square miles of Wyoming. But why? What makes this state so empty? Is it the brutal winters, the endless wind, the complete lack of big cities? Or is there something even deeper at play? Today, we're diving into 10 reasons why nobody lives in Wyoming, and trust me, some of these might shock you. If you've ever considered moving to Wyoming, you might want to think twice. And if you've lived there before, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us what life in Wyoming is really like. Do you love the peace and quiet, or do you find it unbearably isolated? Before we get into it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you love deep dives into the most fascinating places in America. And stick around to the end, because reason number 10 might just change the way you think about Wyoming forever. Let's get into it. If you think winter in the Midwest is bad, you haven't seen Wyoming. The state is one of the coldest in the country, with average winter temperatures ranging from 5 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's just in the cities. Some rural areas see minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit or colder during the winter months. And don't even get started on the snow. While places like Cheyenne get 56 inches of snow per year, the mountainous areas can see well over 100 inches. The snow is so bad that entire towns can get completely cut off for days at a time. If you don't have a 4x4 truck or snowmobile, you're not going anywhere. But what really makes Wyoming winters unbearable? The wind. Wyoming is one of the windiest states in the U.S., with gusts regularly exceeding 60 miles per hour in winter. Imagine stepping outside to shovel your driveway, only to have hurricane-force winds blast the snow right back at you. It's so bad that some areas get permanent snow fences just to keep drifts from covering roads. It's not just a winter problem. Wyoming is windy all year round. The state sits in the heart of America's wind tunnel, where warm and cold air masses collide, creating relentless gusts. Towns like Rawlins and Laramie experience 40 to 50 miles per hour winds daily, with gusts occasionally reaching 80+ mph. To put that in perspective, hurricane-force winds start at 74 miles per hour. People have reported the wind ripping doors off cars, flipping semi-trucks on highways, and making simple outdoor tasks nearly impossible. For some people, this wind can cause serious health problems. Constant exposure to strong wind can lead to windburn, sinus issues, migraines, and even anxiety. And if you think you can just go for a nice, relaxing hike, think again. You'll be fighting against the wind every step of the way. Wyoming isn't just rural, it's empty. The largest city, Cheyenne, has only 65,000 people, which isn't even enough to fill a major NFL stadium. The next biggest, Casper, has about 58,000 residents, and after that, no city even hits 40,000 people. If you're looking for big malls, major concerts, pro sports, or trendy restaurants, you won't find them in Wyoming. The state doesn't have a single major league sports team, and if you want to go to a big concert or shopping center, you'll have to drive to Denver, Colorado, about 100 miles away from Cheyenne. Even when it comes to entertainment, Wyoming is limited. There are only a few movie theaters, hardly any big-name restaurants, and nightlife is basically non-existent. So unless you love small-town living, Wyoming might feel way too isolated. If you're moving to Wyoming for work, you might want to reconsider. The state's economy relies heavily on energy, agriculture, and tourism, which means job opportunities are extremely limited outside of those industries. Wyoming ranks 47th in job opportunities and has a high unemployment rate compared to other states. The median household income is around $66,000, which is far below the national average, and many jobs in the state pay poorly compared to similar jobs elsewhere. Sure, there's no state income tax, which is great, but that doesn't matter if you can't find a decent job in the first place. Many young professionals leave Wyoming because they simply can't find the kind of careers they want. Even if you don't mind small-town life, Wyoming can be extremely isolating. Some counties have fewer than 1,000 people, meaning your nearest neighbor could be miles away. And when it comes to entertainment, well, unless you love hiking, fishing, or hunting, you might be out of luck. Wyoming has almost no big events, festivals, or cultural attractions, which means boredom can set in fast. Yellowstone National Park is amazing, but after you've been there a few times, what else is there to do? If you're looking for bustling city life, Wyoming just isn't the place. Wyoming might not be for everyone, but what do you think? Could you handle the brutal winters, the never-ending wind, and the total lack of big cities? Or does the thought of living miles away from your nearest neighbor sound like a nightmare? Drop a comment below and let us know. And while you're at it, tell us what other places you want us to cover next. Should we break down the most overrated cities in America, or maybe the best hidden gem states that nobody talks about? Hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our next deep dive. Now let's get back to the list. Wyoming ranks among the worst states for healthcare access. The state has one of the lowest numbers of doctors per capita, with only 2.2 doctors per 1,000 residents. Many small towns don't even have a hospital, and specialized medical care is almost non-existent. If you need major surgery or a specialist, you might have to travel to Colorado, Utah, or Montana. The state also ranks 48th in mental health care, meaning anyone struggling with depression, anxiety, or other conditions may have nowhere to turn. For elderly residents or people with chronic illnesses, Wyoming can be a dangerous place to live. Even though Wyoming is known for its low taxes, there's no state income tax. The cost of living is higher than you might expect. While housing is relatively affordable, things like food, gas, and utilities are actually more expensive than in other states. Because Wyoming is so rural, supplies have to be transported long distances, which means higher prices on everyday goods. And since job wages are lower than the national average, the cost of living can feel even higher. Wyoming is a land where wildlife roams free. Encounters with wild animals are part of everyday life. Wyoming is home to bears, mountain lions, wolves, and bison, and while they're amazing to look at, they can also be deadly. Grizzly bear attacks happen every year, and bison, despite looking slow, can charge at 35 miles per hour and easily kill a human. On top of that, Wyoming has one of the highest rates of car accidents caused by wildlife, with hundreds of crashes involving deer, elk, and moose every year. Mosquitoes and ticks add to the challenges of living in Wyoming. Wildlife encounters are thrilling, but remind us of our place in this wild landscape. If you live in Wyoming, you'll need to always be on alert. If you rely on fast internet or need reliable cell service, Wyoming is one of the worst places to live. The state ranks 49th in broadband access, meaning many rural areas have slow, expensive, or no internet at all. Even in towns, high-speed internet options are limited, making remote work, streaming, and online gaming frustrating. Cell service is just as bad, with huge dead zones where you'll have zero signal. If you break down on a remote highway, you might not be able to call for help. Unless you're okay with satellite internet and unreliable phone coverage, Wyoming's lack of connectivity can be a deal-breaker. Wyoming isn't just isolated geographically, it's also politically and socially uniform. The state is overwhelmingly conservative, which can feel isolating for those with different views. It's also one of the least diverse states in the country, with over 90% of the population being white. On top of that, young people often leave the state, meaning Wyoming skews older, with limited social opportunities for those in their 20s and 30s. If you're looking for a vibrant nightlife, diverse culture, or a progressive community, you won't find much of it in Wyoming. The reasons behind Wyoming's sparse population are complex. From harsh climate to limited job opportunities, life here is not for the faint of heart. So, after hearing all of this, would you ever move to Wyoming? Or does the thought of freezing winters, relentless wind, and total isolation make you want to stay far, far away? Let us know in the comments. Maybe you've lived in Wyoming before. Was it as empty as people say, or is there a hidden charm we're missing? Tell us, what state or city should we cover next? Should we explore the most overrated places in America? The most unexpectedly awesome small towns? Your suggestions help shape our next videos, so drop them in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.